So at this point we finally got to the moment where we have Alice in a position where we can upgrade her to 6-star. So it has taken a little bit, but again, we can finally upgrade the rank. So you want to get all of your champions ready. You want to farm 12-3 in Brutal as much as possible. And then we're going to get Alice to 6-star. And of course, at that point, you want to also level her up as quickly as you possibly can. So in this case, I still have a lot of those prepared. I have a lot of the magic brews and saved basically all of them, and I'll just insta upgrade her, use the million here. It's quite expensive. You don't really have to do that. If you want to take it a little bit slower, then you can definitely just use her to continuously farm in the campaign, and you can also use her, of course, then to upgrade some other champions. But at least for the showcase here in the video, I wanted to get her to 60 as quickly as possible, and she is now, in terms of the power level, just much higher. Now, what we want to do afterwards is we want to unlock the amulet and also the banner on her. So this is where really a lot of that power spike comes from. And let's not forget that once that we're actually at a point where we have her on level 60 and 6-star, you can also add the final mastery where we're want to go for Helm Smasher. So with Helm Smasher locked in, what we want to do first is we want to farm the magic heap a little bit more. Again, at this point, we are in a situation where we can rely on her with level 60, so this is going to help us to progress a little bit further. Now, this is only the first champion that we have on 6-star, so obviously we're not only looking to progress in some of the dungeons further, but we also want to make sure that we are getting our next champion level up. And your next priority should be to get Ugo at least to level 50, and you can also think about getting Kayle to 50 as well. I upgraded mine to level 40 at this point. If you upgrade him a bit more, it helps you in Clan Boss, because he will be able to apply more poison. Ugo is, generally speaking, the more useful champion for you, so you should focus on him. But when we're talking about Kayle, he definitely has a place here too, and as you're progressing through the game, you will also hit in the late game a lot of areas where magic champions become, or rare champions become, pretty important. So again, don't sleep too much on Kayle here. There's also a couple of progress missions that are really tied to him, so you want to consistently upgrade him too. But one of the big things is really to try and go to upgrade Ugo as much as you can, because he will assist you in essentially all of the dungeons as well. When talking about the magic heap, there's a couple of things just outside of simple turn meter manipulation that we're going to talk about in upcoming videos, where you also are trying to apply this debuff block that Ugo has, which is going to be really important, because that shield that can be put up here is really what makes or breaks the dungeon oftentimes. So if Ugo has enough accuracy so that he can apply that block debuff, that's pretty important. And you've actually seen right now that he missed it a couple of times. Now, in this case, Alice should still be able to push us through, but this is where you, if you don't want to run the dungeon on auto, you can really play a little bit with that cooldown as well to make sure that Ugo always applies that ability when there is no block debuff on the other side on the boss. Or make sure, you know, that you hold it back depending on what's currently happening here. Now, in this case, it actually worked out. We have to double check a little bit on how much farther we go in the dungeon. But once that you're hitting the highest level that you can kill with Alice on 60, that's where you really want to farm it. And it's going to take you a little bit of time to get to a point where you can fully ascend Alice, but in the process you're obviously going to pick up a lot more potions then as well that you can use later on for Ugo, also for Kayle. So there is since we are very heavily based on magic champions at this point, it's going to be helpful no matter what. But Ugo is going to be your next project. If you have any books, for example, you want to apply them there too. And as I said, with Ugo, it's going to become important to really boost his accuracy as well. One of the things that we are going to go a little bit more in depth, but that you can already do, is when we're talking about the Forge, for example, the one set that you really want to focus on, if you have the materials, is Perception. Don't waste too many of your resources on anything else in the Forge. Just really go for the Perception set, and that's the only thing that you should craft for now. And we're going to dive a bit deeper on the Forge, but it's really going to help you. Here you might have seen, actually, if you paid a little bit of attention, that Ugo was just trying to apply his block debuff and did, and we're going to fail that run now miserably. And one of the problems on why that is because he applied it too early. The remove debuff, the block debuff got removed, and then the shield got applied. And from that point on, the run just goes completely awry. So we can probably break through this one regardless, but as I just said, it's going to be quite important to also tinker around a little bit with the timing. And one thing that you can actually do, we got currently dropped out a little bit too much. But one thing that you can do when it comes to the timings that you might have already seen a little bit is you can talk about the presets. And in the presets, for example, what we now just did on round 3, Ugo is currently set that he starts up with his block debuffs. And that was really useful for the previous runs, because in the previous runs the enemies were so weak that Alice, when she comes in on the 3rd round, she would always use first her Clockwork Cyclone that would take the 2 adds at the side out, and those are the 2 that are removing the debuffs. So she would have the first move, take them out, Ugo then applies his block debuffs, and then everything works out fine. Now, at this point, as we're progressing, for me that doesn't work anymore, so I have to now change things up slightly. So I have to, for example, tell Ugo, you open things up with a typical auto attack. You don't immediately use this, but this is going to be your first priority. So after he opened this up with an auto attack, then we're going to go for Maelstrom Whack in the 2nd round because it's the higher priority as long as it's off cooldown, and then you can easily play around that. To guarantee that it's off cooldown, you are just blocking it out on the 2nd round, for example. And if you're shifting things like that, you will very quickly get to a point where you can farm on auto the highest dungeon level that you can complete in any given dungeon. So the priority for now, once again, is you're going with Alice for farming of magic potions. You want to fully ascend her, and you can now use her even more reliably as a campaign farmer in 12-3 Brutal to level up more food champions so that you can focus on Ugo, who obviously you also now want to fully ascend. So this is really where the game is going to become quite a bit more interesting, because we now have more tools to work with, but we want to have more champions on level 60. That is going to be incredibly helpful. And of course, once that we have those ×2 reward pull events for ancient shards, for epic shards, for sacred shards, that's where it then really starts to spiral off, because we can expect that we get a lot more good champions there that will, depending on what we're getting, just cause more breakthroughs in certain dungeons. When we're talking about the Fire Knight, you want to heavily rely on, first of all, attacks that come with multiple hits. You want to rely on a lot of control of the turn meter. This is something that we're also going to look soon into, because there are a couple of very cheap alternatives if you don't get pulls like, let's say, Allure, for example, that help you with turn meter control. We have some that you can actually even buy in the marketplace, and that will be pretty helpful actually throughout the late game at times too. So we're going to talk about those, but for now, again, you got your work cut out for you. There's still a lot of grinding to do. We gotta have a few more champions on higher levels. You want to farm with Alice in the campaign still, and of course now also in the dungeons. So yeah, get things going. If you have any questions, if you pulled anything where you say like, hey, is this useful for me or not, then drop a comment into the comment section. Always happy to help you out there if there are any open questions. And with that, that's it for the day, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.